live and welcome to this English news edition coming up in the next 20 minutes. Libya's parliament has signed a declaration of principles with the General National Congress aimed at ending the conflict in the country, plus an agricultural Algerian land serves as a park as well as where many families come to enjoy the green spaces and the various animals this land possesses. Hello there and thanks for joining us. First, the National Council of Teachers in Higher Education decided to observe a 3-day strike from December the 12th to denounce the general declining situation in the sector and what has labelled by the CNES as government dictatorship in the absence of a thoughtful policy to deal with the various issues threatening the sector. Karim Fazakri.
The National Council of Higher Education Teachers CNAS boycott to the national meeting discussing ways to better the LMD system might deter it from its main role, improving the sector, putting the Minister of National Higher Education and Research, Mr. Dzair, in an awkward situation. As a matter of fact, the universities of the country may be paralyzed. The National Council of Teachers of Higher Education, CNAS, has indeed threatened to begin a strike from December 12th if the teachers' demands are not met. In addition to the social problems in which employees of the sector are struggling with, CNAS is also protesting against the disrespect of the authorities. If truth be told, a meeting of the National Council at its headquarters in the former business school, which now houses several institutions of higher education, was prevented by the authorities, an affront which adds to the social conditions of the teachers of higher education. Initially, CNAS is observing a 3-day strike, but the union, which went into a long hibernation for several years, now plans to extend the movement after the school comeback scheduled for early January. CNAS reaffirms, furthermore, the legitimacy of its articulated grievances, particularly around the democratization of university housing, salaries, academic qualifications, the settlement of the doctoral student status, and the lifting of all constraints in front of 40,000 teachers. The strike announcement marks a turning point in the relations between the Ministry of Higher Education and the Teachers' Union. Until then, the tension between the factions of the union and the pedagogical issues ended up being right claims. The truce is now broken. What will be the consequences? Only some little time shall tell.
Minister of Health and Hospital Reform Abdelmalik Boudiaf has revealed that Bikur Laboratory will start manufacturing medications for patients of hepatitis in Algeria, as this falls within the framework of government policy aimed at reducing the importation bill depending on generic drugs. Minister of Health, during the evaluation meeting, whose work started today morning in Algiers, confirmed that the amount of expired medicines in Algeria this year did not exceed 2.5%. Boudiaf called to shift from some specialties and medical examinations towards multi-services clinics to upgrade health sector and relieve pressure on the major hospitals. He also revealed that 85% of specialist doctors have joined their jobs in the south of the country as part of the civil service. Libya's parliament has signed a declaration of principles with the General National Congress aimed at ending the conflict in the country. The declaration forms a 10-person committee naming an interim president and deputy. Libya's Foreign Minister Mohammed Dzair had said a government of national unity may be formed by the end of the month. He was addressing the media at the conclusion of the Africa-China Forum. Dzair said Libya has made progress politically, and once the national accord is formed, they hope to bring back Chinese companies to help finish off several projects on housing and infrastructure. The minister said China and Russia have also been supportive of political progress in Libya. It is worth mentioning that Libya has been in political turmoil following the uncertain and killing of Muammar al-Gaddafi. The so-called Islamic State insurgents say they are responsible for a blast that killed the governor of Yemen's port city of Aden. Ja'far Mohammed Saad and several aides died when their convoy was hit. IS says it detonated a car laden with explosives as he drove by. The group has established a presence in Yemen since its civil war broke out. It is opposed to the government and Iranian-backed Houthis rebels who have seized much of the country, including the capital Sana'a. Earlier this year, Aden was recaptured by government troops backed by a Saudi-led coalition. British airstrikes on the so-called Islamic State group will fail to defeat the terrorist Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, said in an interview with the Sunday Times newspaper, mocking Prime Minister David Cameron's strategy in the region. British lawmakers approved the bombing of IS targets in Syria on Wednesday. Hours after that approval, the Royal Air Force struck the oil fields that Cameron's government says are being used to fund attacks on the West. Speaking in an interview conducted before the vote in Parliament, the result, which had been widely anticipated, Assad said Cameron's strategy would make the situation worse, not better. Voters in France are going to the polls today, Sunday, for the first round of regional elections, which is taking place just weeks after the terrorist attacks in Paris that killed 130 people. The far-right National Front, with its anti-immigration and anti-Muslim rhetoric, is expected to make gains. Usama Snoussi.
French people are voting in regional elections, the first electoral test since last month's Paris attacks, in which 130 people were killed. Opinion polls suggest there will be a strong showing for the far-right National Front FN. The center-right, led by former President Nicolas Sarkozy, is expected to win in most regions at the expenses of the governing Socialist Party. Sunday's first round will be followed by a runoff on December the 13th. French regions have wide powers over local transport, education and economic development. The election is also being closely watched after opinion polls suggested the popularity of the anti-immigration, anti-EU National Front had increased since the attacks on November the 13th. FN leader Marine Le Pen is likely to win in the northern region of Nord-Pas-de-Calais, Picardy, while her niece Marion Maréchal Le Pen is a leading contender in the province Alpes-Côte d'Azur in the south. It would be the first time the National Front has captured any of France's regions. The party is hoping a strong performance will boost Ms. Marine Le Pen's chances for the 2017 presidential elections. Both Mr. Sarkozy's the Republicans' party and the FN appear to be heading for about 30% of votes, according to opinion polls. The government's response to the Paris attacks has boosted President François Hollande's approval ratings. They have soared more than 30 percentage points to 50%. However, the surge in personal popularity has so far not translated into greater approval for Mr. Hollande's Socialist Party, which is trailing with about 22%.
A stabbing at a tube station in East London is being treated as a terror incident. Police were called to reports of people being attacked at Light Townstone around 19 GMT on Saturday. The knife man reportedly shouted, "This is for Syria." A man was arrested after being terrorized by police. One man suffered serious knife injuries, while two others received minor injuries. Metropolitan Police counter-terrorism detectives are investigating the case. Downing Street said it was monitoring the situation closely. The Met said the suspect was reportedly threatening other people with a knife. Venezuelans elect a new legislature today, Sunday, in a vote that may punish the ruling Socialist Party for a prolonged economic crisis and could strengthen the opposition's efforts to challenge the broadly unpopular President Nicolas Maduro. Polls show frustration over chronic product shortages and runaway inflation, signaling the voters could hand Venezuela socialists their first loss in parliament since the movement's founder, late President Hugo Chavez, took office in 1999. Winning a majority of the 167 seats would not give the opposition power to overhaul the struggling state-led economy. Way back to Algeria now, a heaven and a paradise-like area on the land of Jdiwia in the western province of Rilizan, where agricultural and serves as park, as well as where many families come to enjoy the green spaces and the various animals this land possesses. Karim Fazzakri.
A paradise on Jdiwia's land in the province of Rilizan was the objective of Mr. Hamri, the owner of an agricultural land which he wanted to host several families looking for some peace and quiet in the breathtaking green space with a perfect natural decor, including several kinds of animals and birds. We have milk-producing cows inside this ranch, but we also wanted to exploit this space and turn it into a green one, with several animals and birds for families to come here and hang out. We have tourists coming 24/7. This garden appeals to them very much since it's clean and has many animals. The peacock, one of the most beautiful birds in the garden and the kind which attracts much attention by the visitors, is being taken very good care of, as the other animals and birds in this garden. We have all kinds of birds, doves, peacock, ostriches, and we even have monkeys and gazelles. These birds are taken very good care of. We give them their special diet, and cleanliness is the most important thing. We have special staff to take care of the animal day and night. They are in charge of everything. We have special breeders working in shifts at night and during the day. The animals must have their food, water, everything they need. While agricultural investment is often restricted to few fields, some choose to have a complete different field of investment, such as this beautiful park-like ranch, to improve interior tourism of the country.
And finally, Algeria and Nigeria drew 0-0 in their final group match, B match of the Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations in Senegal to make it through the semi-finals and keep Olympic hopes alive. The result in Dakar was enough for both teams to qualify, with Algeria finishing top of the group and Nigeria ending as runners-up. Usama Snusi.
Our Under-23 Desert Foxes played goalless draw with Nigeria Eagles in their last group game of the CAF Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations yesterday Saturday in Dakar, booking their place in the semi-final stage of the tournament against South Africa. The Algerian team started the game with sheer determination against the junior Nigeria Eagles, but the game didn't go according to plan for the Algerian Desert Foxes. The first half ended goalless between the two sides, and there was no difference in the second half either, as the game ended scoreless at full time. Both Algeria and Nigeria finished on 5 points apiece, with the Foxes topping the group with superior goal difference ahead of the Eagles. All in all, it wasn't a bad result entirely for the two countries, after which they booked their passage to the semi-final of the tournament. Elsewhere in the second group game, Mali defeated Egypt 1-0 as both countries failed to scale through the group stage hurdle yesterday. Mali finished with 3 points, while Egypt ended at the bottom of the table with 2 points. Meanwhile, in the semi-finals, pairing Algeria faced South Africa, while Nigeria battled host Senegal for the final ticket of the tournament. The first 3 countries of the tournament automatically represent Africa at the Rio 2016 Olympics men's football tournament in Brazil.
And we wrap up our main English news edition with a reminder of our main top stories. Libya's parliament has signed a declaration of principles with the General National Congress aimed at ending the conflict in the country. An agricultural Algerian land serves as a park, as well as where many families come to enjoy the green spaces and the various animals this land possesses. The end of our English news edition. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.